Welcome back to the Digital Ledger, everybody. We have some great news. Well, we have a lot of news. I don't know how great it is for the economy, but we do have some news that we need to take a look at and catch the narrative of what has been taking place over the last several years and where it possibly is bringing us today. Let's go ahead and get into this thing. So this is a post from a couple days ago from Jim Rickards. If you don't know who Jim Rickards is, I highly suggest you follow him. He's a gold bug. He's been an investor for gold for many, many years, a presidential economic advisor to many different presidents. He sits in on a lot of the monetary war game situations that take place in government and helps them rehearse scenarios and things like that. He is absolutely a brilliant mind, as well as an author to many different books that he has actually forecast the economy and the falls that have taken place over the last couple decades. So shout out to Jim Rickards. We'd love to have him here on the show. What a really brilliant mind he is. So here we go. So this chart should destroy the myth of stimulus. Fed balance sheet is going straight up and corporate earnings going straight down. Fed printing is keeping the lights on in the financial system, but not much else. There is spending, there is printing, but there is no stimulus. I got to be honest. He really nails it. And when you look at that, this is the Fed assets expanding the balance sheet, which we have discussed many, many times. And this is corporate earnings dropping in the same similar fashion. To his point, where's the stimulus, right? This is pretty freaky when you think about it. I mean, pretty scary stuff, because they are throwing trillions and trillions of dollars. And by the way, the repo market, the overnight repo market for banks that had hundreds of billions and then into the trillions overnight to cover the gap of banks lending to other banks so they can get their books in order by next business day, is now not reporting at all. That's how bad it is. They don't even want you to know what the number actually is. We are in a very, very, very bad time, and a historical time, but not for the right reasons. So head on a swivel, because it just is going to come home to roost, and it's in the process of doing so now. This one comes from XRP Crow, and this is an old one from Susan Athey, but a very goodie. And let's just hear what she's talking about when she's talking about technology and what Ripple and XRP can do here. Let's hear this noted economist here talk. She is absolutely brilliant. And also the creator with Robert Mitchnick of the XRP calculator, which is interesting because Robert Mitchnick from Stanford University is now at BlackRock. Yeah, the same organization and company that has been appointed along with BNY Mellon to handle the government's affairs while going through this economic shutdown. They also were called on in 2008 as note to the last shutdown or the last crisis we had. Let's listen here what she says.
First started talking about alternative cryptocurrencies in, say, 2013, and I was involved with Ripple very early. There was a whole set of people, including some of our famous tech leaders in Silicon Valley, who would stand up and say, scale economies, the best thing doesn't always win. Bitcoin was first. Bitcoin. Everything is going to be Bitcoin. These other things are all going to die. I would stand up and quietly raise my hand and say, well, if you're thinking about enterprise software, it's not all just like the Betamax and VHS and Netscape versus IE. In fact, in enterprise software, you typically have a lot of different vertical solutions serving different parts of the market with different combinations of features. And so my thought was that we will see different systems for different purposes. And in fact, that is sort of how that's evolved. So I don't think there's one size fits all. So Ripple wants to move, hundreds of billions of dollars or trillions of dollars between banks internationally. So they need a highly scalable system. So when I first started talking about alternative cryptocurrencies in, say, 2013,
There you go. So she's talking about the fact that you need a highly scalable solution and different tech to solve different problems. And you know what? it has turned out that she is absolutely right, as she mentioned in there. That is exactly how the space is evolving, and it is exactly what is taking place before our very eyes right now. Now, the reason I bring this up and this clip, along with the disparaging position that the country is in, as well as the globe, I don't mind you, but I wanted to go to this next piece from Michael Val, 5 links. If you're not following on Twitter, please do. Finextra is what he shared here. Swift's major announcement slips under the radar. On March 12th, the Swift Board of Directors quietly issued huge announcement about the future direction of business, an announcement that is probably the most significant since the business was formed back in the early 1970s. This bold new vision of Swift shows real global ambition, but is it the timing wrong? Just as the world ducks away from globalization under the shock of the current health event, Swift has decided to take on the global card players, Visa, MasterCard, and have thrown their hats into the ring to become the global connector for account-to-account, A2A payments. They announced Swift will enable instant and frictionless payments from account to account anywhere in the world with an end-to-end solution that combines international domestic capabilities. This ambitious platform expansion means Swift will support financial institutions to strengthen their position in B2B payments to capture new volume in SME and consumer segments. For the first time, they have declared their intention to not only strengthen their relationship with institutions and large corporations, but also to move into the small, medium enterprise and customer payment space. This changes the dynamic of Swift Network, adding transaction volume in place of value as they include low value, relatively mundane payments alongside high value, systemically important payments. Wow, there's a nice term. It is an understatement to say that this is a huge change in direction for Swift, perhaps driven by the fact that as Swift is owned by the banks, the change of direction might enable the banks to take control of the interconnectivity of new instant payment schemes, which are either live or rolling out all over the world. Currently, there are 2 other major players moving rapidly to try and own this market, the aforementioned Visa and MasterCard, which are interestingly now not owned by the banks. Over the last 12 months, both Visa and MasterCard have made huge acquisitions in the payments market. From payment players already in the ACH and account-to-account market to fraud and AML, as well as the core systems and niche software development players. All in the drive to extend their reach from card holder to account holder, Swift has been planning to update its core engine and already had a massive upgrade program underway with the move of the ISO 20022. The board has quite rightly seen that the replatforming of a core engine could deliver so much more than it does currently and has smartly decided to go for the big initiative. Swift needs to help accelerate the move to ISO 20022 despite the delayed implementation date to enable many other data-driven solutions, such as providing end-to-end visibility of securities transactions to reduce settlement failures and fines. Indeed, they go further in the announcement, saying that they will offer financial institutions the opportunity to leverage its capabilities through the use of APIs. Interesting stuff here, ladies and gentlemen. They will also enable backward compatibility with the older Swift platforms, presumably through some form of message translation. Although the card schemes do have many pieces of the puzzle in place, as well as the truly global interconnected product suite, they too are struggling with one issue, namely ISO 20022. All card transactions are processed under the older, simpler, and more limited message format, namely ISO 8583. And while this does a great job at a simple card transaction level, it will never allow more sophisticated products that rely on rich data sets enabled by ISO 20022 to be released. The Swift announcement is very bold. It also opens the door for third parties to play a bigger role by their announcement to enable the ability to link in additional services through the use of the API layer. At first, I expect many of these to be innovative solutions to help protect the data, monitor and track fraud, prevent money laundering, enable better risk management. In addition, this could also support new data-driven initiatives perhaps being delivered through fintechs and new world players. The announcement also goes on to explain that this will mean a delay of 1 year in the start of the migration of cross-border payments to ISO 20022, but that the end date remains firm at November 2025. SWIFT ended the announcement with another almost sales message to their shareholders, ultimately the banks. This exciting new vision will remove complexity, ensure transparency, and allow compatibility, all on a trusted platform with unmatched security, resiliency, owned by a global neutral cooperative with strong governance set up to enable the growth and success of the financial community. Not to generate profits for itself, closing this paragraph off suggesting that they are the only global player now owned by the banks that can keep control of the global interconnectivity of the instant payment schemes. You can see why the banks are so keen to keep control of the global integration in almost all programs to roll out instant payment schemes. The banks have had have to invest heavily in their development, and yet the solutions have led to the drop in revenue, both from cash pooling and transaction fees. Therefore, it is important to grab control of the international integration where no doubt transaction fees can be introduced, along with currency conversion, etc. There are some big bets being placed in the payments market, and it makes sense for SWIFT play their cards, no pun intended. The real question I have, however, is it too late? Will the card schemes create traction in this market before SWIFT can realize their vision? Has the global pandemic slowed and globalization down sufficiently for SWIFT to catch up? We know that consumers are easily led and always take the simplest journey when it comes to payments. Will that be through the bank account or a card or token? Only time will tell. What a fantastic article, ladies and gentlemen. And it really does, I think, lay this down where it currently is for SWIFT. They're behind the 8 ball here. If they want to be relevant, they better get in the game. Because Visa and MasterCard, the private companies, have not been waiting around. They have been moving on this sector quite heavily, as they said in this article. And now SWIFT is really realizing it. And now looking at the fact of this current pandemic and health crisis that's happening globally and wondering if they can use this opportunity to bring themselves back up into a more relevant position to where things are happening in a digital realm. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe. Please share this content if you like what you see here and like what you're hearing. We want to get the audience broadened so we can get more perspective and more insight into the conversation. I will catch you guys on the next one.